The stranger at the edge of the sparse desert moon of Kalos 3 was supposed to be uninhabited. No cities, no stations, no life, only wind, dust, and wreckage from a long-forgotten war. But as Captain Elias Wren stepped out of his rusty dropship and onto the cracked surface, something didn't feel right. He scanned the horizon. His ship, the Wayfarer's Echo, groaned behind him as its engines cooled. He wasn't here for adventure, just scavenging. The Union paid well for old tech, and the ruins of Outpost Delta 9 were rumored to be filled with forgotten machines. He moved slowly, crunching over dry metal bones. The air was thin, the wind sharp. His scanner showed nothing alive, no heat, no motion, just dead silence. But then a voice came through his comm. "Hello. Are you human?" Elias froze. The voice was young, scared. He pulled up his wrist unit, switched frequencies, and asked, "Who's speaking?" "I saw your ship. You're not from the syndicates, right? You don't wear black armor." He crouched beside a collapsed comms tower, eyes scanning for movement. "No, I'm alone. My name's Elias. Who are you?" A pause. Then the voice whispered, "My name is Nyla. I'm 10. My mom's hurt. She told me not to talk to strangers. But I don't know what else to do." Elias's heart tightened. He looked at his scanner again. Still nothing. But he couldn't ignore a child in need. "Where are you?" "Under the signal array." "Please hurry. She's bleeding. I don't know how to help." Elias moved quickly. He shoved aside a fallen antenna dish, uncovered a thin metal panel, and lifted it. Below, a small crawl space revealed itself. Inside was a glowing pair of violet eyes. Nyla peeked out, her skin a soft shade of silver blue. She had tiny haunts on her forehead, barely curved, like a crown made of bone. Her clothes were torn and dusty. She stared at Elias with cautious hope. "You're not a soldier," she whispered. "Nope, just a pilot." She backed away, revealing a larger form behind her. A woman taller, her features more angular, skin bruised and bleeding from a deep wound along her ribs. She was breathing, but barely. Elias slid down without hesitation and knelt beside her. He opened his medkit, pulling out sealing foam and coagulant patches. "She's losing blood fast. Will she be okay?" "I'll try." He cleaned the wound, sprayed it shut, and wrapped it tight. Her skin trembled under his touch, but she didn't wake. For an hour, he worked in silence, Nyla holding her mother's hand the whole time. When the alien woman finally opened her eyes, they burned with suspicion. "Human," she rasped. "Leave. I'm not here to hurt anyone," Elias said calmly. "Your daughter called for help." "She shouldn't have," the woman muttered, her voice weak, but sharp. "I know. But she did, and I don't walk away from kids." The woman tried to sit up and failed. Her arms buckled. Elias caught her gently and helped her lie back down. Nyla stood beside them. "Mama, he's kind," he helped. "He's not like the others." The woman looked at her daughter, then at Elias. Her eyes softened, just slightly. "I'm Lyra, Elias," he said with a nod. That night, Elias cooked a protein pack over a portable flame. The bunker was cold, barely sealed from the wind. Lyra lay on a mat of cloth, breathing steady but shallow. Nyla sat beside Elias, her arms around her knees. "Do you have a family?" she asked. Elias poked the fire, thinking. "Not anymore. They were lost in a crash, years ago." She looked up at him. "Then you're alone?" "Yeah, I guess I am." She tilted her head. "Mama's alone too. She says she's strong, but I know she's sad. Maybe you could stay. Maybe you could be her friend." Elias chuckled softly. "That's not how things usually work." "Why not?" she asked. "You helped us, where I'm from. That means something. If you save someone, you don't leave them behind." Elias didn't answer right away. He stared into the fire. "That's a nice way to live." "It's the right way," she said. Later, while Nyla slept curled beside her mother, Elias stepped outside. The stars above were cold and endless. He took a deep breath and checked his scanner again. Something flickered, a faint signal, movement. To the east, he tapped the screen. 3 heat sources. Human-sized, slow and careful, his jaw clenched. He went back inside and quietly sealed the hatch. The next morning, Lyra was awake and sitting up, a knife made of scrap metal in her lap. She looked at Elias with the same suspicion as before, but she didn't tell him to leave. He handed her another food pack. "I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You lost a lot of blood." She took it. Didn't thank him, but she ate. Nyla sat between them, smiling. "You make good food, Elias. It's just rehydrated stew. Still better than fungus paste," he laughed. "I'll take that as a compliment." As the day passed, Elias repaired parts of the outpost's power grid. The solar panels were ancient, but still intact. If he could get the system running, they'd have heat and shield coverage. NYLA followed him around, asking questions. "Is your ship fast?" "Sometimes." "Do you have weapons?" "Some." "Have you ever seen a nebula storm?" "Twice." "Don't recommend it," she giggled. "Can I be a pilot someday?" Elias looked at her, then at Lyra watching from the shadows. "If you want it badly enough, you can be anything." That evening, Lyra finally spoke again. "You're helping us." "But why?" Elias didn't turn to face her. "Because I know what it's like to be left behind, to be scared, lost. I won't do that to someone else. You don't owe us anything." "No, I don't. But your daughter asked." "That's enough." She studied him, her expression unreadable. "Humans destroyed our cities, took our people, chained them. I wasn't one of them." "No," she admitted. "You're not like the ones who came before." Elias looked out the small window slit. Dust was rising again in the east, too controlled, too smooth. It wasn't natural. They were being watched. He didn't say anything. Not yet, but tomorrow, he would prepare. Because Elias Wren didn't run. Not anymore. The hunters in the dust sun was barely visible behind the thick, swirling dust clouds over Kalos 3. The sky looked like rusted metal, and the air tasted like old copper. Inside the broken bunker, the silence had changed. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy, like something was watching. Elias stood by the small window, watching the unnatural movement in the storm. He had been into many conflicts to mistake it for wind. That dust was hiding someone or something coming straight toward them. He stepped back from the window and tapped his wrist scanner again. Still 3 life signatures, same direction, same slow pace. But now they were closer. "We have company," he muttered. Lyra was already awake, her sharp eyes meeting his. She was sitting against the wall, her bandages dark with fresh blood, but her posture didn't show pain. Only alertness. "How far?" she asked. "Maybe 2 clicks." "They're moving slow, careful, like they're hunting." She gripped her makeshift blade tighter. "Then we don't have much time." Elias knelt near her. "You're not in shape to fight." "I've fought worse with less," she said calmly. "You can barely stand." "I'll crawl if I have to." Nyla looked up from where she was arranging broken machine parts into what looked like a toy. She had stayed quiet, sensing the tension, but now her voice broke the silence. "Is it the syndicates again?" Lyra hesitated. "I don't know." Elias answered more firmly. "They don't move like soldiers, no formations, no con chatter. But they know we're here, then we hide," Nyla said, standing up. Like before, Elias shook his head. "They're too close. They'll sweep the whole place." Lyra looked at the old wall panel. "There's a lower level, was sealed during the war. Storage tunnels. Can we get in?" "If I can find the release panel," she said. Elias didn't wait. He crossed the room and started clearing debris. Lyra crawled behind him slowly, her breath shallow. Nyla helped too, using her small hands to dig through wires and dust. After a few minutes, Lyra stopped. "Here," she said, pointing to a faded control pad. She touched it with 2 fingers. The lights flickered. The metal beneath the wall shifted and groaned, revealing a narrow tunnel. Nyla looked inside. "It smells like old socks and burnt metal." "Perfect," Elias muttered. "Get inside." Nyla climbed in without complaint. Lyra followed with difficulty, her legs trembling. Elias helped her in, then grabbed his rifle and backed toward the hatch. "I'll draw them off," he said. "No," Lyra growled. "You stay with her." "I fight. You can't even hold that knife steady." "I don't need steady. I need sharp." They stared at each other for a second, then nodded. "All right," Elias said. "But if it gets bad, take her and run." Lyra looked at him. "Same to you." They sealed the hidden tunnel hatch behind them, covering it with cloth and scrap. Then they moved to higher ground, what was left of a second-floor observation deck, half collapsed and buried in sand. Elias crouched behind an old railing. He adjusted the scope on his rifle, heart beating slower now. He was in the zone, calm, focused. 3 figures appeared through the storm. They wore mismatched armor. Their helmets were dented. Their weapons were high-grade, but carried like tools, not trophies, scavengers, or worse, black market abductors. The kind that didn't take prisoners, just bodies. Elias whispered, "Not syndicate." "But definitely trouble." Lyra stayed low, beside him, her blade ready. "They're looking for something. They're looking for her," Elias said. The lead figure raised a scanner. A blinking red light appeared. He pointed toward the bunker. Confirmed heat trace. Elias heard faintly through the wind. "Life signs." "They're here." The second figure moved faster, approaching the entrance with practiced caution. The third circled wide, heading toward the back. Elias took a slow breath and fired. The bolt hit the second scavenger in the leg. He dropped with a grunt. Before the others could react, Elias ducked back into cover. The air lit with return fire plasma bolts, slicing through stone and steel. Lyra didn't wait. She slipped around the broken wall and moved like a shadow. Her movements were uneven but controlled. Pain was ignored. Survival was all that mattered. As the third enemy passed the old generator, she struck. Her blade sliced through the gaps in the armor. The man screamed, staggering. Lyra didn't stop. She drove the blade into his chest and let gravity finish the rest. Elias jumped down to cover her, firing a second shot at the remaining enemy. This time the scavenger dodged and threw a grenade. Down. Elias yelled, grabbing Lyra and pulling her behind a pile of rubble. The explosion shook the wall. Dust filled the air. The sound made Nyla scream from somewhere below, even though she couldn't see it. Elias heard her voice through the comm. "Mama." "Elias," he tapped his wrist. "We're okay. Stay hidden." The remaining scavenger didn't press forward. Instead, he activated a beacon on his belt. A high-frequency pulse echoed across the outpost. "What's he doing?" Lyra asked, calling backup. Elias muttered, "Or worse, they couldn't afford to wait." Elias rushed him. The scavenger fired, but Elias rolled under the blast and tackled him. They hit the ground hard. Elias struck fast, breaking the man's grip on the rifle. The scavenger grabbed a knife. Elias grabbed a rock dot. It ended quickly. Elias stood over the body, panting, blood on his hands. His own or the enemy's, he wasn't sure yet. Lyra limped toward him, breathing heavily. "That all of them?" "For now." They checked the bodies. The scavengers weren't just looters. They carried syringes, restraint cuffs, genetic scanners, kidnappers, traders. They hadn't come for supplies. They had come for Nyla. Elias stared down at one of the scanners. Nyla's face flickered on the small display. A match profile, value tag, genetic rank. They weren't just looking for any alien child. They wanted her for a reason. He clenched his fist. They were going to sell her. Lyra's face turned pale with rage. "Over my dead body." "That almost happened," he said quietly. They dragged the bodies into the shadows and returned to the bunker. Elias opened the hidden hatch and climbed down first. Nyla ran to him, hugging his waist tightly. "I was so scared," she whispered. He knelt down. We're okay. They're gone. Then, she looked past him. Mama, you're hurt again. Lyra knelt beside her, stroking her hair. It's all right. Nothing serious this time. Elias sat beside them. They knew exactly who she was. That tech wasn't random. They had her file. Lyra nodded slowly. Then more will come. Elias stared into the darkness of the tunnel. The storm above had only just begun. They won't stop, Lyra whispered. Elias looked at her. Then we won't stop either. Echoes of the past whined outside never stopped. On Kalos 3. It moved like a living thing, howling over the dunes and broken stone, slipping through cracks in the bunker. After the fight, everything inside had fallen silent to silent, the kind of silence that made breathing feel loud. Elias sat with his back against the cold wall, hands wrapped around a hot pack of stew. He hadn't eaten in hours, maybe longer. Across from him, Lyra was sleeping or trying to. Her wounds had reopened during the fight, and he could see the dried blood soaking through the bandages again. But she didn't complain. She never did. Nyla, curled up beside her, one hand wrapped around a toy made from old wiring and a rusted bolt. Her wide silver blue eyes stared into the flickering light of the small heater Elias had managed to fix. She hadn't spoken much since the attack, but now her voice broke the stillness. Are they going to come back? Elias didn't lie. Yes. She looked up at him. Will they take me? Not if I'm here. She was quiet again. But her voice came back, softer. They knew my name. I know. They knew my face. I know that too. She sat up a little straighter, her shoulders stiff. Why? I'm just a kid. I'm not special. Lyra's eyes opened at that. She didn't speak, but her hand reached over and rested on Nyla's. Elias looked at them both and sighed. He set his food aside and opened the pouch he had taken from one of the scavengers. Inside was a data chip, small, black, unmarked. He slid it into his wrist pad and let the display flicker to life. It was encrypted, but not heavily. After a few taps, the screen began to show rows of names, pictures, codes. Most of the faces were children, alien, human, hybrid. Next to each name was a value, a ranking, a purpose dot, and then NYLA. Her profile was tagged as a leveler genetic variant. Notes filled the page, most of it in shorthand. High neural elasticity, cellular regeneration potential, potential carrier for adaptive cognition strain. Elias read it once. Then again. He looked at Lyra. She's not just a child to them. She's a blueprint. Lyra closed her eyes, her jaw tight. They'll want her alive, Elias continued, but they won't treat her like a person, just a piece of property. A test subject. She's not, Lyra said. I know. He stood and paced the small room. This isn't just scavengers. This is a network. They had her file before. They even arrived. Lyra sat up with effort. She wasn't born under normal conditions. Elias stopped moving. What does that mean? She was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke slowly. There was a lab, not far from this moon, off the charts, hidden from the Union. My people called it the Hollow Nest. It was part of a research project. Some aliens, some humans, trying to create the next step in evolution. Elias frowned. Genetic weapons, more like genetic tools, she said. They wanted minds that could adapt. Bodies that could change, survivors, and you. I was born there. So was Nyla. Elias stared at her. You don't look old enough to have a 10-year-old daughter. I'm not, she said. The lab accelerated everything. Time. Growth. They made us fast, so they could study what came next. He felt something twist in his gut. You escaped. I stole her, my own child, and I ran. He looked at Nyla, who hadn't moved. Her eyes were wide, scared, but not of him. Of the truth. Lyra kept speaking. I was part of the second wave. They wanted to see if we could carry hybrid offspring. I wasn't supposed to have her, but I did, and they called her a success. Elias sat down hard. I didn't want her to grow up in a cage, Lyra said. I didn't want her to be a science project, so I stole a ship and vanished. We've been hiding ever since, and now they found you. No, she said. They found her. Elias stood again. Then, we move. Lyra looked at him. Where? Anywhere but here. I know places. Smuggler lanes. Abandoned colonies. Planets not on any nav chart. If we stay, they'll keep coming. We have to vanish. She didn't answer, but he saw something in her face. Not trust, not yet, but something close. I'll need a day to get the ship prepped, Elias said. The hull's still cracked from the jump in, and the shielding needs work. I'll need help. I can help, Nyla said quietly. He smiled. You know anything about fishing coils? I know they hum funny before they break. Close enough. That day, while the wind howled outside and the scanners stayed quiet, Elias worked on the ship. Lyra stood guard, her blade always within reach. Nyla followed Elias everywhere, asking questions, handing tools, sometimes just watching. He didn't mind. She reminded him of someone he used to know. Someone who had also asked too many questions. Someone who had once called him Dad before everything fell apart. That night, with the Wayfarer's echoes slowly coming back to life, Elias sat beside the fire again. Lyra sat opposite him, her eyes tired, but alert. Why are you really helping? US, she asked. I told you. Because Nyla asked. That's not enough, not for most people. I'm not most people. She studied him. You were in the war, weren't you? Yeah, which side? I was a rescue pilot, he said. Didn't care about sides, just got people out. She nodded slowly. You lost someone? Yes, family. He didn't answer for a moment. Then he said, a son. She didn't ask more. The silence between them wasn't cold this time. Just shared dot. Then the alarm on Elias's wristpad chirped. He checked it. His stomach dropped. A signal, strong, not scavenger tech, military grade, Union design, but not Union channel. Something masked, approaching fast. He looked at Lyra. We have a problem. How bad? Big enough. He pulled up the orbital scan. A small shuttle was descending fast, not flagged, no ID code, silent, but its vector was precise. To precise, they're coming again. Lyra stood slowly. Then we fight. Elias looked at her. Or we run. Nyla spoke from the side. Will they hurt you? Not if I can help it, Elias said. She stared at him. Then promise me something. What? If I get taken? You come get me. Elias knelt down and looked her in the eyes. I won't let them take you. No matter what, he nodded. No matter what. Lyra's hand rested on his shoulder. Then let's finish the ship. Above them, through the dust-choked clouds, the shuttle broke the atmosphere. The hunters had returned, but this time they wouldn't be alone. Into the Ferretti ship trembled with every gust of wind that slammed into its side. Inside the cargo bay, Elias wiped sweat from his forehead as he pushed a fusion coil back into place. The Wayfarer's Echo was old, battered, and stitched together, with more hope than metal, but she still had one more flight left in her. He only hoped it would be enough. Outside, the storm thickened. The new shuttle, unmarked and silent, had landed somewhere in the northern dunes. It hadn't broadcast any signal. It didn't announce peace or offer terms. It came like a shadow, fast, quiet, and full of danger. Inside the old bunker, Lyra loaded what little gear they had left. Her bandages were cleaner now, and she moved with less pain, but the weight of everything still showed in her face. Nyla stood near the ship's door, holding onto a tool bag, waiting for Elias's signal to board. Elias slammed the panel shut and stood. Power cells locked. We'll have one burn, maybe two, if we don't care about the engines melting. Lyra didn't hesitate. Then we only need one. Elias checked the scanner one last time, The shuttle's signal had vanished, but that didn't mean it had left. It meant the people inside knew what they were doing. They had cloaked themselves, and that meant trouble. He looked at Nyla. Once we take off, stay buckled. No matter what, she nodded, but didn't smile. Her eyes were too full of fear for that. He turned to Lyra. If they try to jam us, I'll cut through the drift manually. It'll be rough. Do it. Elias ran to the cockpit and powered up the systems. Lights blinked to life. Screens flickered. The reactor hummed low and angry. The entire ship felt like it was holding its breath. Then, just as he activated the launch sequence, the comms screamed to life. A voice called, "Clinical. Captain Elias Wren, you are harboring stolen genetic material. Power down your vessel. Exit with your hands raised." Elias froze. Lyra stood just behind him. "They tracked the ship. I know," he said. The voice returned, calm and sharp. "Failure to comply will result in lethal force. You have 60 seconds. Elias flipped the comms off. "We're not giving them anything. Then we run," Lyra said. "No," he said. "Then we fight while we run." He hit the thrusters. The Wayfarer's echo shook, groaned, and lifted off. The engines screamed through the storm as the ship climbed through the thick dust. Behind them, a low whistle cut through the air. "Incoming. Fire." Elias yanked the ship hard left. A plasma bolt missed their tail by meters. Another blast shook the hull, making Nyla cry out from the cargo bay. "Shields down to 20%. He shouted. "They've got a lock on us," Lyra added. "I know." He spun the ship again, cutting low over the dunes. The terrain helped huge. Rock spires broke line of sight as they weaved through canyons carved by ancient wines. The shuttle chased them from behind, sleek and black, with 2 forward cannons and a rear clamp bay. Elias checked the weapons console. 1 forward blaster. Overheated. To decoy pods. Low fuel. He gritted his teeth. "We're not going to outgun them. Then we outfly them," Lyra said. Elias smirked. "Strap in." Then he dove toward the canyon floor, racing just above the ground. The ship's belly scraped rock. Sparks flew. The hull groaned like it wanted to tear apart. But Elias didn't let up. Behind them, the shuttle followed, struggling to match the insane angles Elias flew through. But then the enemy fired again to plasma bursts. The first missed. The second hit their right engine. Alarms screamed. The ship rolled uncontrollably. Elias fought with the controls, yelling through gritted teeth, losing stabilization. "Do something." Lyra shouted from the seat beside him. He shut off power to the right thruster completely. The ship jerked, spun, then leveled. Barely, rerouting propulsion to ventral fins. Elias muttered, "We'll fly dirty, but we'll fly." In the back, Nyla's voice shook. "Are we gonna crash?" "Not today," Elias said. The black shuttle was still gaining. Too fast, too quiet. Its cannon charged again. Lyra looked at Elias. "We can't outrun them. Maybe not. But maybe we don't have to." He pointed at the map. "There's an old mining field ahead, full of metal shards, broken drills, electromagnetic trash. No sensors will work there. You're going into a junk storm." She asked. "Yes, you're insane." "Correct." He pushed the ship forward. The engines screamed, barely holding together. The black shuttle followed close, but once they crossed into the mining field, everything changed. The sky filled with metal, scraps of steel, floating wires, magnetized clouds of dust and rock, all spinning, crackling with static. The Wayfarer's echo shuddered under the pressure. But Elias kept going. Behind them, the enemy shuttle slowed. They couldn't risk blind flight. "Got you," Elias muttered. He twisted the ship behind a massive derelict drill and powered down everything: engines, lights, even life support for a few seconds. The echo went silent. Outside, the shuttle hovered, scanning. Searching. It drifted past slowly, missing them by meters. Lyra didn't breathe. Nyla squeezed her toy. Elias watched. The radar, silent. After a long minute, the shuttle turned away. heading back the way it came, searching elsewhere. When it disappeared into the storm, Elias turned the power back on. The lights flickered weakly, the ship coughed back to life. Lyra sat back, still gripping her seat. That shouldn't have worked, but it did. Elias sighed, barely. Nyla peeked into the cockpit. "Are we safe now?" "No," Elias said, honest as ever. "But we're alive." He set a new course toward the asteroid belt on the far side of Kalos 3. There were old smuggler docks in that direction, places the Union didn't monitor, places where someone could disappear if they knew the right codes. As they flew, Lyra looked out the viewport. Her voice was quiet. "They won't stop. I know. They'll chase her across the stars. Then, I'll chase back." She turned to him. "Why are you really doing this?" He didn't answer right away. But when he finally spoke, his voice was steady. "Because when I lost my son, nobody chased them. Nobody cared. This time, I care." Lyra looked at him for a long moment, and something shifted in her eyes. "Not trust something stronger. Belief. Double quotes. I won't let her become an experiment," Elias said. "I won't let her be a file in someone's lab. She's a child, and she matters." Nyla stood beside them. She looked small against the stars, but her voice was brave. "Then we run together, outside." The stars burned cold and distant. But inside the Wayfarer's echo, something warm had started. Not hope, not yet, but the spark of something like it. And sparks, Elias knew, could light fires. Shadows in orb with Wayfarer's echo limped through the outer atmosphere of Kalos 3. Her engines coughing and bleeding energy. The deep black above was filled with stars, but it felt empty, hollow, like something was hiding just beyond sight. Elias knew better than to trust the quiet. His hands stayed on the controls, fingers tight around the throttle. One wrong move now, and the ship would spin into the belt or stall in low orbit, leaving them exposed. There was no help coming, only the silence of space and whoever was still hunting them. Lyra sat beside him, staring at the screen. Her eyes didn't blink much anymore. She was too used to running, too used to pain. Her body was healing, but her mind was still in survival mode. She checked the radar every few seconds, as if expecting something to pop up at any moment. Nyla had fallen asleep strapped into the jump seat behind them. Her small hand clutched the toy she'd built from scrap wiring, still humming faintly with the pulse of recycled power. It wasn't just a toy. Elias had realized that. It was a tracker jammer, handmade and crude, but effective. She'd built it without even realizing what it truly was. Whatever the people in that lab had done to her, she had something inside her brain, something that learned fast and thought faster. "She's a prodigy," Elias whispered without looking. Away from the screen, Lyra turned toward him. "She's more than that. She's a miracle." Elias nodded. "Miracles don't usually come with a price tag." "She does," Lyra said bitterly. "Every system in this quadrant would sell their soul for what's in her blood. And I won't let them have it." He believed her, every word of it. But he also knew this wasn't just about evasion anymore. Whoever wanted Nyla hadn't just sent bounty hunters. They had Union-grade ships, cloaking tech, and classified genetic files. That kind of power didn't work alone. That was deep money. Deep government. Maybe deeper. Suddenly, a blip appeared on the edge of the radar. Elias leaned forward. "Contact. Another shuttle." Lyra asked, hand moving to the emergency power switch. He zoomed in. "No. Bigger." She tensed. "How?" "Big. Capital class. Mid-range. Cloaked. But leaking residue. Military. Worse. Private." Lyra's voice dropped. "Corporate." "Yeah," Elias said, grimly. And they just decloaked. A massive shadow emerged from the black, just above the asteroid belt. It was shaped like a blade, long, flat, and bristling with weapon ports. Its hull was matte black, with no insignia, no lights. But Elias recognized the design. "Ketrax Holdings," he muttered. "Research and Extraction Division." Lyra's eyes went cold. That's who ran the hollow nest. They're not here by accident. Elias flipped the Echo's systems into silent run mode. Power dropped, lights dimmed. He coasted on minimal energy, letting the ship drift just above the field of broken rocks. The radar lit up again. 4 smaller crafts launched from the Ketrax. Ship, sleek, fast, probably loaded with scanners and drones. They're sweeping the belt, Elias said. We have nowhere to hide, Lyra replied. Not in open space. Then we don't hide. We ghost. What? He turned to her. We find a wreck, something metal and cold, and we merge with it. No energy, no signal, just another piece of junk. She stared at him. That's suicide. It's survival. He shifted the ship gently toward a large freighter wreck drifting at the edge of the field. The hull was torn open, half-eaten by time and meteorite impacts, but it was big enough to mask them, maybe. If they were lucky. As the Echo slid behind the wreck, Elias cut the last of the systems. The engines hissed and died. The lights vanished. Inside, everything went still. No warmth, no noise, just breathing. Lyra whispered, "If they scan our heat, they'll find us," Elias finished. "But maybe they're arrogant. Maybe they think they've already won. They always do." The wait began. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The scans grew closer. Outside the metal walls, faint pulses of light shimmered across the surface of the old wreck. A drone zipped by, scanning, turning, pausing, then continuing on. Inside the ship, Nyla stirred in her seat. "Why is it so cold?" Elias moved to her and held her hand. "Because we're playing a very quiet game," he said softly. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She just nodded and pressed her toy against her chest. Then the comms flared to life without warning. Not a voice this time, a song. Soft, almost like a lullaby. Lyra's eyes widened. They're using psychic lure tech. They're trying to trigger Nyla's brain. Elias dove toward the controls. The comms are offline. How are they transmitting? Nyla winced and covered her ears. "Make it stop. It's too loud." Lyra held her daughter tightly. "Stay with me. Don't let it pull you." Elias yanked a panel off the wall and started ripping wires. They're bouncing a signal directly through the residual neural imprint. She's the target and the receiver. That means they've done this before, Lyra said. Nyla trembled. "They're calling me." Elias paused. "What?" "They keep saying return. I hear it. In my head." Elias dropped the panel. "We're out of time." He powered the ship back up in a single surge. Lights flickered. Engines howled. Shields slammed on. The Wayfarer's Echo screamed back to life and blasted forward from the wreck. The Ketrax drones turned immediately. All 4 streaked after them. From the main ship, another signal launched a pursuit beacon, bright and angry, cutting through the asteroid belt like a sword. Lyra manned the secondary turret. "We can't outrun a capital ship." Elias didn't look away. "I'm not trying to outrun it." "Then what are you doing?" "Calling in a favor." He slammed a coded signal into the nav beacon, a frequency so old and broken that most systems ignored it, but not all. Somewhere, out there, an old pirate station still responded to the call of its ghosts. Elias whispered, "Please still be listening." A moment later, the stars shifted. 6 new ships dropped out of warp. Ugly, scarred, mismatched but armed, Lyra gasped. "Who people who owe me," Elias said, "and people I saved." The pirate fleet dove straight into the Ketrax drones. Explosions filled the black. The Echo flew straight through the chaos, slipping behind friendly fire, darting between wrecks and warships. One of the pirates hailed them. "Get clear, Ren. We'll handle this," Elias grinned. "Thanks, Tasha." As they fled into deep space, Lyra sat back, stunned. Nyla finally spoke. "We're not alone." Elias looked at her and nodded. "Not anymore."